This is Millennial Money Mindset. Bubbles. We're talking bubbles. How to avoid getting caught up in a speculative bubble. What are bubbles and why they happen? Stay tuned to the end where we give away 3 tips to avoid getting caught up in a bubble. Please like, please subscribe, and please tell one person about Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Let's get right into it.
Money Mindset.
I think that sounds right. Hello and welcome to Millennial Money Mindset.
To shout.
Well, sorry, I'm just trying to get the volume right. Right, so let's get into it. So today we're talking about investment versus speculation. So it's basically we're going to talk about bubbles.
Bubbles.
So we're thinking about what would be an interesting topic. We went for a few of them and you picked bubbles.
What did I pick? But I picked bubbles. Bubbles. Mostly just so I could say bubbles.
So we're going to talk basically what's the difference between investing and what is investing, what is speculating, and what's the difference. So we're going to go through why bubbles happen, essentially what are bubbles, and how you can reduce your risk and how you can kind of avoid the speculative bubble that people have got into in the past. So what are bubbles and why do they happen? Essentially they happen because we're all humans. As humans, as we all know, we're kind of emotional creatures. We've evolved many years ago, and basically we evolved to be rubbish or terrible investors, which people don't necessarily know. But think of it as like thousands of years ago when we were evolving, you'd have fine tasty food. You'd eat it right away rather than think, right, I'm going to save this for 30 years time for when I'm 60. So people have changed. Humans have kind of changed over for so long. And
thousands of years.
Or thousands of years.
Yeah.
When we're investing, we get like fight, flight, or freeze emotions. Kind of things happen to our brain that we don't necessarily realise at the time, which can affect our investing decisions. So by being aware of this, it can kind of help our building long-term wealth, and also. So it's part of the brain as well. So someone said it much clearer. Someone whose scientists have talked about it much cleverer than I am. They talk about 3. Essentially, the brain's built up of 3 parts. And when, say, the markets crash, a chemical gets released, and it basically makes us kind of flight, run away. Like think of it. Years ago, you might have got chased by a bear. Like the people who survived basically would have got. Who lived would have run away because of that part of the brain, kind of the fight or flight kind of reactions kicked in. So we're affected by our.
Good to run away from bears then.
Well, exactly. Yeah, no, they call it loss aversion is what they call it in the markets.
The fastest person is that thing, isn't it? You don't have to be the fastest runner. You just have to be faster than the slowest person.
Exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily help your point.
No, but it's so another reason is kind of the FOMO, kind of like the fear of missing out. So people get into kind of, I think of Bitcoin like recently, like if you weren't in Bitcoin, it was kind of going up like, I don't know, 10 times what people pay for. People are like, I've kind of missed out the latest craze, and kind of people want to get on that bandwagon and kind of jump on board, which might not necessarily be the best thing for long-term investing. So it's that, and also market crashes kind of affect, like we say, our brain and kind of the different parts of it. So that's kind of the reason why bubbles happen.
Can I go back one step here?
Yeah.
Can we just go back to just so everyone's on the same page before we start talking about what's going on with bubbles?
Yeah.
What's a bubble?
So it's basically like, think of it like a price rising so much that it goes kind of out of kilter than from the kind of the intrinsic value of whatever you're paying for it. So
something that's like overvalued.
Yeah. So if you think of essentially like you buy assets, and assets produce an income. So if an asset is way more expensive than what you're going to expect to get that income for, that would be the basics. That would be overpriced. But you might buy it on the hope that something is going to go up in price. So think of the difference between investing, which is buying assets that are going to go up in value over the long term and produce an income, whereas speculating is essentially buying something on the hope that someone else will pay more for it.
Okay, so back to bubbles. So the reason they're called bubbles Is that because they might burst?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about that. Like, what does that mean? What does it mean when financial bubble or whatever kind of bubble you have?
Yeah.
So you have a bubble which you've just explained is when something is being overvalued for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So what happens when it bursts? What's a bubble bursting?
So the bubble that I've experienced the most was the dot-com boom. So in the 90s, everyone was kind of, the craze of the internet was kind of at this frenzy. Everything was going kind of, anything with a .com at the end of it was kind of going for crazy prices. There was like pets.com that was going kind of mad valuations, and I stupidly bought lastminute.com. The irony of the name was lost to me at the time, but it was basically, everyone could see the potential of the internet. I mean, look at the companies today, the Netflix, Amazon, Google. These are the kind of big companies that are kind of dominating the industry today. But 10, 20 years ago, you could see that was going to be this technology that had come about. The internet was clearly unbelievable at the time, but people didn't understand how they were going to make money from this kind of amazing technology that is the internet. So people were kind of overpaying at the time, thinking they were going to make their fortunes from speculating on kind of getting rich, essentially.
So how about those people who back then sort of thought about that and thought, I want to invest in some kind of online retailer or online product? And what about those small handful of people who did invest in your Googles, your Amazons, your Netflix? Where are they now? Yeah,
I mean, if you look at how much these people are worth, they're worth millions, like billions. Like, how much is Jeff Bezos? How much is,
so
Mark
some
Zuckerberg?
people
How much are they?
Have still done really, really well out of that bubble.
Yes.
But what happened to the rest of us? What happened to the masses who invested in, what did you invest in?
Lastminute.com.
Okay.
But they lost the what you paid for that would have gone down significantly. It's just kind of but the technology there was the value of that technology is still relevant today. It's buying kind of I guess one of the good points that I'm going to come to is don't buy one individual stock. Buy kind of a whole. You can buy kind of trackers that kind of. You buy 50 or 60 companies in one kind of fund. So
back to bubbles.
Yeah.
Is that how you avoid getting yourself caught in a bubble?
Well, we're going to go into that until the end of it. But let's talk about kind of what are bubbles now.
I thought we just did what are bubbles. I asked you what's a bubble.
Okay, well, it's like tulips is a good example. So think of tulips in like the 1630s. So people would...
For the record, he means flowers.
Yeah, like tulip, but tulip, like in Holland, they were like... there's a new technology and these kind of flowers were different colours and people were like, wow, in like the 1630s, people were like, oh, this is amazing.
People went nuts for it.
Yeah, exactly. So one tulip bulb went for more than a flat in Amsterdam. Like, imagine that. Like, that's how much it kind of went.
It's kind of dumb, isn't it?
Well, at the time, but then people, it's kind of getting carried away with the kind of frenzy of like that kind of human emotion kind of getting carried away with it. So essentially it's positive feedback loop. So like these kind of new technologies, opportunities, prices rise, and therefore people kind of want to make money out of this. They see this kind of technology thinking, this is going to be the future, and they're trying to make money out of it. People fall in love with the story. So everyone, if you talk about like tulips, like other ones like art, I don't know, it's quite, you can picture the people having like...
They think they're going to make their millions from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so tell us about Bitcoin, because that was a more recent one, right? That's something that's maybe kind of relevant today. So yeah, Bitcoin's an interesting one. So Bitcoin is an amazing technology. So the blockchain technology is clearly unbelievable. It's a bit like, there's a number of things that you can use cryptocurrency for. So one of them is actually using it for a currency. So you can buy coffees using Bitcoin. You can go buy horses. There's a place in Wales that you can actually pay for your horse riding in Bitcoin. I read something online this week that some guy, I think this was like before people really realised how much Bitcoins were worth, some dude bought like a pizza and he bought it with a Bitcoin that was worth like $800,000 or something. Yeah. I don't know if that's correct, like that might not be the exact amount, but it was something really crazy like that. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, so it's just not knowing the kind of... really bad for him. So Bitcoin, so Bitcoin's and cryptocurrency, so the kind of... The cleverness behind Bitcoin is the kind of what you can use the ledger behind it. So it's basically like what it can be used for amazingly is for the shipping industry is going to be so what the technology can be used for is the shipping industry. At the moment they use what they call like bills of lading. It's like a piece of paper that travel with the ship, but you can basically cut down all this bureaucracy just using cryptocurrency.
Okay, but why is it a bubble?
Well, I mean, at the moment we're kind of in the middle of it, so it's difficult to tell if it is actually a bubble or not. But if you look at...
Oh, so I picked a bad example.
No, it's a really good example, a really relevant example. Basically, it's like... so Peter Lynch talks about what is the earnings. So this guy's like one of the best investors of all time. He basically says, like, look at how much is that going to... What's the earnings on that? So if you look at like a Bitcoin, like how much you're not going to actually... It's not producing anything. It's not actually creating anything. All it is a currency. It's a bit like a pound coin or a gold bar. It's not actually producing anything. Yeah, commodity. I would say it's more of a commodity than like an actual business. It's once you use this technology to actually create value and actually create earnings from using this technology for good, improving people's lives, solving meaningful problems. This is when the actual value of that really will kind of show and shine through. When you
but that's blockchain technology, which is not the same thing as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a product of blockchain.
Exactly, yeah. So Bitcoin is more like the product, and it's like the currency for it. But it's like the kind of the poster boy of cryptocurrencies. But yeah, the blockchain is the technology. It's a bit like the internet is the kind of the technology, whereas the lastminute.com is the kind of product from it.
Yeah, but let's stick with bubbles. So
what's
next?
So another good example would be the railway bubble. So there was like people think like I guess people always think bubbles are really bad, but it can actually be a good thing. So the technology of the railways, think back, this is like the 1850s when railways, the steam engine, all this locomotive, it connected people, and people putting more money into railways trying to get rich, but it actually created more money going into railways, which meant that more tracks could be laid down, more money could be spent on trains, and it meant more people were connected and kind of
but that's more
yeah, exactly. So more ideas were spread. So
I thought bubbles were a bad thing.
So it depends. Like, basically, what bubbles come from, it's kind of new technologies, new opportunities, new kind of industries, new markets opening up, and it's more. These are good things. Like it's kind of, I don't know, it's the capitalist market. People kind of investing or speculating to kind of to get money back from their investment. So I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. It's just people need to manage their risk, essentially.
Okay, but let's go back to that railway example, because I don't think you quite finished the story, because you told us why it was overvalued, or you told us why people were investing in it. Yeah. But what happened? What made it a bubble? So essentially, it crashed. It must have had a crash, right?
Yeah, exactly. So people piled into railways, thinking you can't lose with railways.
It's on the up. It's going up. It's going up.
There's
it's
no
what
way.
We hear all the time.
Yeah. So there's no way you can lose with railways, but then it goes up. It's like a positive feedback loop. People invest because they think it's a good investment, and then their friends come, oh, that looks like a good investment. It's gone up 20% this year, so other people get in.
Right, but what happened? That's
the thing. But then it basically gets to a point where it's like the greater fool. So no one else wants. There's no more fools to kind of go in and invest anymore. No one wants to pay any more. Okay. No one wants to put more money in. So eventually, people realise that actually there's nothing behind this, and it's like a bubble. Like it just like pops like a bubble. There's no like intrinsic value behind the actual price of this thing, and then it kind of comes to a crash.
But why would so with the railway example, why did that happen? Because surely you would think, like you said, people were investing, and actually it was good because the more people invested, the more railways could be laid, the more trains could be put into service, the better it was broadly for the community, for like connecting different communities. Yeah. So why would that crash? Because what I would think from that is, well, surely then the more is invested, the more the railway system is going to be worth. Yeah. So how is that a crash? What happened?
Well, it's exactly that. So look back to, say, the internet. So
no, we're talking about railways.
Yeah, but essentially they're the same thing.
But we just want to know about the railway.
So the railway, it's like basically too many people went in, paid too much for this price of a stock or whatever they bought for it, and then it basically the intrinsic value wasn't there anymore.
So the yield wasn't good enough from the actual railways themselves.
Yeah, so what you're actually
money from selling tickets.
Exactly. So what you're getting back from the railway was nowhere near as much as what their people were paying for each stock for these railways.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Should we talk about a bubble that we all know and love?
Like
Can we talk about a bubble that everyone, I think, would be familiar with?
Yeah.
London house market.
Okay, that's controversial though.
Why is that controversial?
Well,
you don't think that's a bubble?
I think it's a bubble, yeah. But I guess it's one of those things that no one wants to talk about it. It's almost like
I want to talk about it.
It's like the Emperor's new clothes. No one wants it. Like once you see it, it's like actually clearly it's overvalued. And if you look at I don't know how much people are paying for, how much people are earning. So the average London wage is like, I don't know, £35,000, whatever it is, and then the average price is like £450,000.
£500 million.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It may as well be to most of us.
But yeah, if you look at kind of what people are paying and what you would get back if you're a landlord, it's way out of kilter from.
So you're looking at really rental yield when you're thinking about housing market bubbles.
Yeah, there's lots of things. Yeah, basically what you're getting back. Coming back to that earnings example, like what for your investment you're putting into a house or a stock, what you're actually getting back from that investment. So if you're paying, £500,000 for a London flat and you're only getting, I don't know how much is £20,000 for a year for rent or whatever, I'm just making up these numbers, it's essentially nowhere near as what you're.
I would be expensive rent, to be fair.
What, 20,000? Oh, whatever it is, like yeah, okay, but like, do you know what I mean? It's like it seems to be going up, and it's, I don't know, coming back to Newton's third law, like it's like what goes up must come down. It's like, every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So it's kind of, if it goes up so much, then it can only kind of go down essentially.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the London house market isn't a good example because we haven't actually seen a crash. We haven't seen the bubble burst. So we don't.
No, I mean the latest figures from Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, it's down 20. London house prices are down 20%, but no one's reporting on it, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's
maybe
an
the media
one.
is a topic for another podcast.
Yeah, perhaps. So right, what are we talking about the hows as well? So we've gone through.
Or you're going to tell us how to avoid getting ourselves stuck in a bubble.
So,
or how to avoid losing money in a bubble.
Yeah, okay. So we've kind of gone what is a bubble, kind of why we're susceptible to bubbles, but also it's like how do you avoid it? So one of the main things I want to talk about or to emphasize is so there's a thing called leverage. So leverage is like basically using borrowed money to invest. So the one kind of a crash we didn't talk about was the 1930s kind of big crash, and that was mainly caused by people borrowing money to speculate, essentially, so using kind of margin or kind of leverage, and this is super, super dangerous. So using kind of borrowed money to speculate with, and it fuels the bubble even more. So I would definitely say there's loads of kind of
but that is kind of classic of housing bubbles.
But yeah,
people over mortgage, don't they? And you're using leverage to buy into this really expensive product,
which is fine going up, but then you get into kind of negative equity on the way back. But it's especially with the housing, there is kind of an underlying asset that if as long as you live there for 20 years. But if you're kind of investing in stocks on leverage, that's kind of nuts kind of risk you're taking it. So that's number one, like stay away from leverage. Don't do that.
Don't borrow money to invest.
Yes.
You would think that's just logical sense, right? But if I don't have the money to invest, I'm going to wait until I have the money.
But there's so many, I use quite a few platforms that kind of investing platform, and some of them it's so easy they're going to give you
it's like
leverage.
Gambling.
Yeah, essentially gambling. So that's kind of leads us into the next point, like know your limit as well. So what's interesting is kind of speculating and gambling are very similar in their kind of knowing your limits. So you've got kind of investing, you've got kind of speculating, and you've got kind of gambling as well. But I would say like don't go more than 4% of your net worth. So any more than 4%, you start to getting. So by that I mean, say you have £100 to your name, only speculating 4%.
No, I think we all know what 4% of 100 is.
I tried to make it like as in like tangible, as in like people can see that £4 in your hand. Like don't go into.
It's hardly anything though, isn't it?
No, but I mean,
it's really small.
But the upside on that, if you look at like kind of if you got in Bitcoin at the, so one of my clients.
So is that just if you're thinking about investing in like one product speculatively, only put in 4% of your?
Yeah, so I would say if you're investing, like have most of your assets in kind of not safe assets, some like stocks and kind of bonds and property and commodities. We're talking about this is like way up on the high.
We're talking about high risk speculative.
This is like Bitcoin. If you've got £1,000 saved up, I wouldn't go all in on Bitcoin. Like that's nuts kind of risk.
I mean, I wouldn't. I'm very low risk.
No, I know. So I would say
anything anyway.
But I would say like know your limit. So 4% is what I use myself personally. Like everyone, like use your own advice. This is guidance, not advice.
I guess it's that thing, isn't it, of like you shouldn't really, if you're putting money somewhere that's very high risk, you shouldn't really put more in than you're actually willing to lose, which is exactly the same as gambling, right?
Yes.
You wouldn't gamble on something unless you were willing to take that loss.
Yeah, so this is speculative. So when you're speculating, exactly, don't invest anything you're willing to lose.
You're not willing to lose.
You're not willing to, yeah, sorry. But on the flip side, I've talked before about people not actually investing. People are so scared to invest because they're worried about they kind of see speculating and investing as the same thing. I see it as two different things. So I don't know if that
speculating is a type of investing, right? It's just investing, but in a very high risk area.
Yeah,
because you're still investing, aren't you?
I would say it's not investing; it's speculating. I think these are two very separate things.
What's the difference?
So essentially, when you're investing, you're buying real life, living, breathing assets. So then, like, you're actually buying businesses that are going to generate profits. That you're going to get a bit of that profits, or you're.
What's the difference there then between when you, for example, your example right at the start, your .com. So dot-com speculation.
But that
was an investment. That was a real life business.
It's not real life business. This is like .com. Lastminute.com was just
it was a real life business.
It is a real life business now, but at the time, it wasn't established generating profits business.
Oh, it wasn't.
It's not. No, this is like back in the 90s.
So you just literally invested in a URL.
I mean, this was like 99. This was when was it? 2000. So I kind of had to call up a city broker.
It definitely existed in 2000.
Yeah, that's when it was. That was when it founded, like 2000. There was a big. That's like back in the day. This was like pre-internet. There was no. You couldn't just go on the internet. And
there was definitely the internet in 2000.
Yeah, I mean, but it was growing. There was the internet, but there wasn't actually companies creating income from this technology. The technology was there. 100%.
I had MSN Messenger in 2000.
How many of these were creating businesses that you could actually buy on the stock market?
I don't know. I haven't done any research on that.
No,
you're going way off topic here.
No, or maybe.
We're not specialists in the internet, the history of the internet.
No, okay. So coming back to this. Point 3 then. So you said specialist, which brings us right onto topic 3. Like you can become a specialist in a specific area. So imagine like knowing like I'm trying to think of an example now, but this basically talks about Jim Slater.
About like a specialist area for investing.
Yeah. So Jim Slater talks about this as a Zulu principle, where he basically becomes. He went on holiday to the Zulu tribe, read a couple of books on the Zulu tribe, and also went to a couple of topics on this specific topic. And essentially, by doing all this research, he became an expert in this very small kind of niche field of the Zulu tribe. You can do this for his argument in his book, The Zulu Principle, is that essentially you can do this for investing as well. You can become an expert in renewable energy, and you can like laser focus all your kind of time and study this kind of small little area, and then you'll know more about the market, you'll know more about this subject than the market. And he calls this kind of arbitrage of ignorance, where you essentially see that there's like an opportunity that the market doesn't fully appreciate. So essentially, if you're looking to speculate, this is like the 4% that I don't recommend, but I would. It's prudent to use of your net worth is to kind
of. I love how difficult you're finding it to avoid using the word like recommend or advise.
I have to.
I know you can't say that.
I'm worried about getting sued, so I have to
watching your face struggle to think of
it's like, the thing is like it's a difficult topic. I guess what I'm trying to achieve is to give good quality education. So I'm saying stuff that other people necessarily wouldn't say because they're worried.
You're helping us to help ourselves.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't say this stuff because they're worried about getting sued, whereas I'm happy to talk about this because I know that. I mean, if people don't invest, they're going to do it anyway. People didn't avoid the Bitcoin, investing. Like one of my clients actually, he bought Bitcoin. I gave financial advice to. He bought Bitcoin when it was pennies, and he had basically came to me to work out how to move his £20 million that he'd made from Bitcoin into a better kind of asset allocation. So that there is gains to be made. I guess I'm trying to get a balanced view of it's not always it's always bad to
it's not always bad to speculate, but what you need is to have like a balanced view of what's going on in the market.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad to speculate blindly.
Yes,
if
exactly.
You don't know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're speculating on a bubble, you need to have some way of knowing when it's prudent to get out of that bubble.
So in my both books actually, I talk about my Millennial Money Mindset, my first book, and Football Formation Asset Allocation, my second book. I talk about rebalancing. So if you every year you take some of those gains and put it back into other investments. So if say you bought Bitcoin and it went up massively, like you can take some of those gains and put it back into kind of other investments to kind of grow those assets. So you're not I don't know, just rely on one asset class.
That's great, but let's get back to bubbles.
Okay. Well, yeah, that basically covers it. So we started off talking about why we're susceptible to bubbles. Kind of, we're all humans. Humans are emotional creatures. We kind of talk about what bubbles are. So we talk about kind of the tulip bubbles, new technologies. We kind of talk about new markets opening up. Kind of even like biotech and like nanotechnology, or like is it CRISPR, like all these kind of like new technology, the Internet of Things. Like we're living in kind of wonderful times. Like there's loads of stuff kind of happening. Like the technology that are dominating today weren't even envisaged in kind of the creator's mind 10, 20.
Okay, but back to bubbles.
Yeah, okay. I'm just talking about kind of new technologies. So essentially we don't know what's going to be next. The industries that are going to dominate in the next 30 years are going to be part of a bubble. So I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of what are bubbles. Then we talk about how you can avoid them. So 1, don't leverage. So that's super important. So number 2, kind of know when to set your limits. And 3, you can have a specialised knowledge in these kind of small little niche. Find a little niche and kind of do your research so you kind of know more than the market does or the market appreciates. So just to say thanks for joining us. This is Millennial Money Mindset. I'd like to also thank
Oh wait, drum roll for the Oscars.
Okay, so I just want to say thanks to the audience. Thanks for joining us. 5 stars. I really, really appreciate all the people giving me 5-star reviews on iTunes, and so keep it up, please. It helps me out with my listings and my rankings. Anton Allen, thanks so much for helping me my first 6 episodes. He's an ITV presenter. He's done some amazing work. Check out his videos. Ryan Gutheridge, thank you so much for your lead vocals on the introduction. He is the lead singer of Thank Pablo, and they're amazing. They've got new stuff coming out, so check them out. So thank you so much for joining us. This is Millennial Money Mindset, and also thanks to Rhiannon for joining us too.
You're very welcome.
Money Mindset. I think that sounds right.